Good morning, aviatics. It's been a long time that I've posted something. Now we're into Battle of Britain season, which obviously the Battle of Britain runs from July the 10th to the 31st of October 1940. It would be nice to actually show some more Battle of Britain bits. We'll be resuming on the Hurricane soon. As I said, sorry I've been a bit quiet. The reason is we've had a landmark holiday, and we've also for landmark birthdays, and also we've been moving house. So it's been a little bit quieter than I wanted to be. Anyway, what I thought we'd look at today is a little bit more of a detailed look at the Spitfire cockpit, and possibly show you how you would start the aircraft from the pilot's notes. Anyway, let's do this now. Thank you. So this is the Mk1 Spitfire slice-through cockpit, which is made of a lot of original parts. I know we've gone through the control columns and things like that, so we'll really whisk through those because I don't really want to bore you, but new modifications since the last time. Obviously we fitted the flare mount, and we've also fitted the proper fire hose type straps that go on the top of the Supermarine pedals. So the early Spitfires had the single tier pedals, and the later Spitfires had a two-tier pedal, which I'll show you in a minute. So what we've got here is just looking through. This is the classic blind fan panel that all World War II British aircraft had. So you've got your airspeed indicator, your attitude indicator, variometer, so it basically tells you climbing if you're up here, descending if you're down here, and obviously in there it's you're flying straight and level. With the attitude indicator, that bar you'd want to be in the middle. If it goes above, then you are descending. If you go below, you are climbing. I'm hesitant on that because basically you've got different attitude indicators in service. This is your slip indicator, so it's called a turn and slip. It's made by Reed and Segrist. So you've got your side slip here in degrees, so 5, 10, 20 degrees of side slip. So that's the aircraft side slipping that way or side slipping that way. And you've got your turn indicator as well for your various rates of turn. This is your direction indicator, so it shows the direction you're going into, and then this is the altimeter here, which obviously is height. You've got floodlights here, little dimmer switches that control the floodlights. You've got engine start button there, and then coming over here you've got your fuel contents, and then for your top tank and your bottom top tank as well, you can push that and get another indication. You've got your engine fuel pressure, oil pressure. Brown is linked together, so it's quite good. So oil temperature there, oil pressure, radiator temperature, very important, very easy to overheat the aircraft, unfortunately. There's a famous scene in the Battle of Britain film where Michael Caine goes, "Controller, how much longer? The engine's overheating and so am I. We either stand down or blow up. Which do you prefer?" So that's what he would be paying a lot of attention to, and although they had a red flap, the Merlin tended to overheat very, very quickly. Then this is your boost pressure, so you supercharge your boost. This is your RPM, so it's quite useful. You've got all your sort of engine-related instruments down here, flight-related instruments in this standard blind flying panel. Up here you've got, on the early Spitfires, you had ammeter and a voltmeter. On the later one you just went to a voltmeter. That one, sorry. So it's 12 volt on the early systems. This is then your wiring into the gun sight. And then on the gun sight you would set your range on there, and you set your base feet is the wingspan of the aircraft. You'd set that there. This is to turn on the reflector sight, and then that's the actual dimmer switch for the reflector sight. So what you've got is basically the image would come here, then be sent up, transposed, reflected onto the, well, reflected, there's a surprise, onto the very rudimentary HUD, I suppose. Then what you've got is, this is your flap tap, so that's for putting the flaps up, and then you put it down here to put them down. Then you've got a warning plate saying, hey, don't put the flaps down or lowered, or even lower them at speeds above 140 knots, because obviously that won't do them very much good. You've also got your navigation light switch here. Then here you've got your oxygen system. So unfortunately, a lot of aircraft, a lot of pilots were lost due to loss of oxygen, so hypoxia, sorry, even. So as you get higher, the oxygen levels go down a lot in the altitude, and the oxygen it's partial pressure and stuff like that. I won't get into it, but basically what happens is you can go very, very, very faint and pass out. You also, before that, you lose judgment, which is not so good. This is your undercarriage indicator. This is your clock, so for dead reckoning and stuff like that, very important thing. Nice old clock, very similar to what was fitted to very early cars, you know, like Bentleys, blowers and things like that. These are your magneto switches, so obviously they're not with the engine instruments, but there's no obvious about it, but they're with the throttle, which is good. Various placards you've got. This is on the early Spitfires. You would have the landing lamp control. So you've got another one of these flap taps type things. They're very difficult to get, as is this. And then you'd basically control the landing lights beam. So later Spitfires, you no longer had this control. What we've got over here is we've got the compass correction card. And then you've got the P8 compass here, or it would be a P6, so it needs dusting. Over here you've got your fuel tank controls here. So you've got your bottom tank, your top tank, and then there's your engine primer switch. Okay, so we've talked about the throttle. I will be putting a better throttle on this because this is a hodgepodge one, and I've got some good original parts there. Behind the pilot's head you had a horn, and the horn had one of these little switches on it, which was fitted on this. So if you retarded the throttle, it would think that you, and you didn't have the undercarriage down, it would think you were coming into landing to stop you really embarrassing yourself and lowering the gear, not lowering the gear and then going wheels up. Again, like the Battle of Britain reference as well. So we talked about the installation of the very early flap control, the very early flare control here with the two Jetson ones there. This is the elevator trim wheel. Back here in this space that we don't have in the cockpit, you've had the rudder trim. And then up here, this is for the gun camera, and that is the camera footage indicator. So it would show how much feet you still had, and you'd set it for dim and bright days and not so bright days and things like that. This is your TR9D radio controller, so the frequency controller for that. And then you've got various warnings about the audible warning that I talked to you about that, to call your attention to indicated lights. Then you've got your air scooter control up here. Talked about the mag switches, well, talking about the controller. Very early Spitfires, most by the time of the Battle of Britain, no longer had this on it, which is the undercarriage selector. So you've got another knob here that goes lower, so you'd lower it by moving it to there, and then pump and raise to raise that wheel. This is your IFF switch box, so you could signal the light of the day, the colour of the day to the people on the ground to try and stop the ACAC and things like that shooting you down. So that would indicate through the navigation lights. This is your height and airspeed adjuster, so it's in there. This is your pipsqueak and Wilfrid, which was the IFF systems, but it fitted to British aircraft. So what happened is you've got this system here, and you would set the radio contactor, and what would happen is it would go with a Venetime switch located in the aft of the aircraft, and you would use that to signal to the ground again, so that people wouldn't think you were an enemy aircraft and shoot you down. This is one of the Sorry, this is the one of the cockpit lamps. So you have a cockpit lamp either side, and as I said, they're covered by the floodlights dimmers there. Coming over here, these are spare gun sight bulbs. To change, you'd have to go up here, yank this unit out, squeeze these, yank the unit out, and change one of the bulbs if it stopped working. They gave you 3 just in case, so they can't have been very reliable. Various placards here. So do not move the chassis lock lever while on the ground, otherwise the wheels would actually raise of their own accord. And then in here you've got the limitations plate for the Spitfire Merlin engine, for a Merlin 3 in this case. Okay, I think that's covered everything there. Oh yeah, no, the only thing we haven't covered is the oxygen system here, which you plug your connector in there. This one's a little bit bent. This actually comes off a Mk1 Spitfire K9844, so I like to use those. I'm going to canter around the control column very quickly. I know I've covered these in a lot of depth in my videos, but they're a passion of mine. So this is the oldest surviving Spitfire control column in the world. It's off K9844. This is its original brake lever. This is its original knurled gun button. Everything on the control column is original, except this is from a Meteor, would you believe, Meteor Jet, the early one, and then this corroded away in the crash site, unfortunately. So I used a Meteor one to replace with all the bits and pieces from the original control column. And then when you go down, you've got these connectors. That's K9844, and that's Bobby Oxspring, who was a Battle Britain pilot, shot down in the Battle Britain. That's from his Battle Britain Spitfire. So these are the sort of chestnuts, or I forget what they call, acorns, which take the air to the gun button and back again, so you can actually go and shoot down aircraft. These are the chain guards, a bit loose on this. Sorry, these are the chains. Later Spitfires had chain guards, so it's quite rare to see a Battle of Britain Spitfire without chain guards. But this is how it came from the aircraft. And then the Bowden cable would come from the bottom of the Bowden cable for the brakes, so would go down there, through there, down to the differential brake valve. Just quickly, so that's the safe position. Often get asked about Spitfire spay grips and control columns. Simplistically, they have a safe fire position, so that's safe, and then you rotate it through 90 degrees to fire. The Spitfire, this is brass, this is aluminium, and then it was anodized red. So this is exactly how it was found from when it was dug up from K9844. So it is, that red is all original. You would have got that on them. So if it was worn off, then the guns were fired lots. Okay, that's a quick canter around the aircraft cockpit. I think when we'll do a proper engine start at a later stage when I can actually get some sound effects, because that would be much nicer. But that's it. Right, the only other thing... No, I think that's... I'm looking for something that I seem to have mislaid. But anyway, so thank you. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. It's only supposed to be a quick little canter through. Last thing I'll just show you here is just talk to you about the rear view mirror. So there's the rear view mirror. Oh my goodness, there's me. How ugly is that? Square type on this type of aircraft. You often get Spitfire modelers and historians talking about an internal armoured windscreen and external. It's called an external armoured windscreen. So it goes on the outside. It was basically added later. So the very early Mark 1s didn't have an armoured windscreen, but it's that thick of glass, which is quite cool. Let's see if we can show you an internal armoured internal screen fitted to the later Mark 5s onwards. I've just realised that I'm supposed to be sticking to the Battle of Britain, but in true Tony fashion I can't seem to stick on one thing, so sorry about that. This is the internal screen I was talking about. So this is actually from Salisbury built Spitfire. So that's Sorry about that. Stuff falling around. Also, I shouldn't get onto this, but that's the later type mirror, which you often see fitted to Mustangs as well, which is quite interesting. The last thing I'll talk about is, I mentioned the rudder pedal. So you've got the rudder pedal fitted to the early Spitfires, and then you've got this, which is the 2-tier. They wouldn't normally be as wonky as this. This came from a Spitfire, probably a later Battle of Britain one, but you've got the extra tier. Let's go and compare it to the one fitted to Aurora, my Mk1 Spitfire cockpit. So there it is. You can actually see it shown quite well there, the difference in them, the 2-tier basically. And the good thing is you could wedge your boot under there, so if you were doing a lot of throwing the aircraft around the sky, you could actually, your foot wouldn't come off the pedals, which for dogfighting would be particularly useful. If you had short legs, or if you want to change your leg position for landing or takeoff, then you could pop your foot on the top tier, which is good. So a great improvement over the, albeit much nicer looking Supermarine pedals with it embossed. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this quick canter through the Mk1 Spitfire cockpit. We will do further cockpit tours and engine starts on various other things, aircraft types, and hopefully show you some Battle of Britain relics as well as going to some Battle of Britain sites. Again, sorry for the delay in videos. I will try harder. We do have a new series coming up very, very shortly, which is going to be hopefully quite exciting. But anyway, enough of that. Keep well, aviatics, and fly high and fly safely. Bye.